thought I'd share with you a little bit this morning about my YouTube journey, not because it's so interesting and glorious, but because it has some things in it that really have been part of these overall lessons that I've been learning about myself and how to operate in this world, and things have been holding me back and all that stuff. My first started with my YouTube channel several years ago, and just kind of dabbled in it because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do yet. So I made several videos, and they were kind of a smattering of different things, but wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I stopped for a little while. Some things came up in life and all of that, and so I just kind of gave it a rest. And then after a little bit, I tried out a little bit with some shorts to see how that went, and that was an interesting experiment, but I didn't really have any kind of plan with that either. So I stopped, and that was probably 2 years ago, maybe 3, I don't know. Time is a funny thing, but recently, not so recently, a little while back. How about that? I use some of these phrases all the time instead of trying to pinpoint, but my nature, being a little more perfectionist, I say that loosely, wants to just nail things down. Okay, it was a Tuesday in November, and on and on. So anyway, a while back. So for quite some time now, I have been wanting to get back onto YouTube, but really unsure of exactly what I want to do, how I wanted to do it. And I had several blocks and hurdles, which has been something I've really been looking at in my life altogether. My limiting beliefs, which really leads me a lot to what are the hurdles, what's the resistance in my life. And that has been really helpful. All the while I've been continuing to consume videos about YouTube and how it's done and stuff that appeals to me to keep the environment warm. And I would talk to myself about that. It's like, are you keeping the environment warm, or are you just procrastinating? Are you just telling yourself this is productive, and all that stuff? And while all those things have certain elements of truth, I did realize that I did need to keep that environment warm so it just wouldn't drift away or whatever, because it's something that I wanted to do. So I kept learning, kept thinking, and I got to a point where as I was realizing this about just my life in general, but also about YouTube, which is kind of a typical of my life, I guess, a little window into it, in that I keep hearing these waves get a little bit louder, and I think, is one going to hit the rock and just splash over me? But I think I'm okay. Let me know if something's coming up. I got to get out of the way for it. Anyway, with the YouTube, I kept trying to think, how do I actually want to do this? And I realized that there were things that were getting in my way. And I realized a lot of things about me. One is that if I put something into a chore category in my head, then that's rough, because there's a lot of resistance there, and that's a whole story or stories of its own that I'll get into someday. But that's a big one. And so how do I reduce the chore factor? How do I reduce, what are the obstacles, and how do I reduce those? What's actually in the way? And I looked at it as, okay, what about time? What about the effort in editing? What about all of that? And I was really having a lot of appeal in videos I was watching at the same time, which sometimes is really something to pay attention to, because those things that we like to watch are those things that resonate with us, which could be a key to how to actually kind of aim yourself. So, I was jumbling all this around and tumbling it around in my head constantly. And, got to the point where I realized, I'm just really at a point where I'm really enjoying folks. I mean, I really enjoy like adventure channels and folks who really have just the fun and traveling and doing different things. And that's really cool. I have a lot of enjoyment for the how-tos and behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. I have a lot of enjoyment for just folks who are just talking about life and their perspective, their experiences. And so anyways, I jumbled this all together. I thought, at this point right now, I don't want to invest tons of time into it, especially if I'm not entirely sure what I want and how to point myself. And so I was back and forth on all these different aspects of things. And I realized I was, to a certain degree, I was test bedding things in my head, where I was like, what if I do things this way and that way and the other way? And how would that turn out? What would the response be? What would the growth be like on it? What would the appeal of it be and all that stuff? What would the appeal be to me? And so as I went through all this, I realized as I went further and further along that, guess what, Ricky? You are test bedding this to death, in that you are now to a point where instead of actually doing it, you're pretending to do it and then making up versions of reality that respond to that. And so I started basically telling all these stories and creating all these stories and scenarios in my head. So I went way past just test bedding it to kind of creating this alternate reality in my head. And then, it's like, okay, this is silly, because it's creating this non-reality that I just don't know, and I'm kind of reacting to the success or not success of these different thoughts I have in my head. It's like, it's not even real. And so I finally got to the point, and sometimes these things just take the time that they take, and it can be really frustrating as we find our way to that point. But at some point, it finally broke through in many areas of my life, I think, and that, guess what? Just start it. And if this seems like a feasible thing, just start it. Do it in the way that has the least resistance, that is the most enjoyable, and that way it doesn't become a chore. It doesn't become something that you just put off and avoid. Something that makes it easy, simple to do, and that resonates with you. And guess what? You can fine-tune it as you go, and you can change direction if you want to. But I realize I can't get any better at it. I can't make adjustments if I'm not doing it for real, not just in my head, for real. And it's like, it's so simple. Of course we know that, right? This is like, it's very basic as far as just life, but also it's not always so easy, is it? Sometimes we just get stuck in our heads, just ruminating and pondering and testing and making up stories and creating different realities and then reacting to it. And it is wild, the stuff that goes on in our heads. And I don't think I'm probably the only one. If I am, then let me know. But if this is something you do too, I'd be really curious to know what your thoughts are, what your experiences are, what your hurdles may still be and stuff, because it's never just done and then it's over with. It's always a constant thing with its own layers and stages and new rooms that we explore and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's really kind of a fun thing. But but it was just, okay, I know this, of course, but just start. Just start. What's your plan? So I started, like, I want to have maybe at least 3 or so before I publish them, and then just start putting them out, pretty much daily, so I can have a batch out there for the algorithm to work with and play with. And that's something we can talk about some other time, some more of the nuts and bolts of YouTube. But the biggest thing I wanted to kind of touch today was that I was stuck in my head, and there were things I had to release myself from. I had to figure out what the obstacles were, what the resistance was, and reduce the resistance, take away the things that were slowing me down and getting in my way. And then actually it came down to, okay, now you just actually have to start it. Just start it and make yourself a smaller plan for now and just start it. And so I have. And, it's just little bits, and I'm kind of seeing the algorithm put things out there in little nibbles and people getting interested. And it's really so fun to have, somebody watch and offer any kind of feedback or questions or what they thought about things. And I love that just sharing is so fun. So each little one feels like a victory, and every little interaction feels like just a fun interaction with humanity. And it's a different perspective, and I love all of that. And so that's kind of what it boiled down to. Is like, I know things take the time they take, but keep making progress, keep the environment warm and positive and encouraging toward that growth. And then at some point, figure out some sort of plan, even if it's just an initial small plan, baby steps or whatever, that you can keep expanding and building upon, but start. And once you start, then you can start adjusting and improving and systemizing. I don't know, I've probably got about 15 videos out now in this new phase of my YouTubing. And the initial ones, I was just talking a mile a minute and jumbled thoughts and rambling, and I'm a little better now. I think I'm slowing it down just a little bit, and it's one of those things. Each one I've got a little bit better just by the act of doing it, but I can also watch it and say, oh man, I'm just going so fast. Oh, I got so many uhs and ums in there. Just whatever. And that's a nice thing, is be able to don't get so critical and beat yourself up about stuff, but there's always room for growth, always room for improvement. And having it on video, we can see. And, that's a beautiful thing. Heck, my very first YouTube video, I went out and filmed, and I don't know how long it took me or whatever. And I got home and I watched it, and it was so horrible. It was the absolute worst. I mean, it was beyond cringe. And I just like, delete all of that. And it was so bad. But it was a good start, and then I kind of went from there. But we grow and we learn and we adjust and we can systemize things. And that's what I've been doing every step of the way with this. I've tried to commit myself to doing this daily, or at least stock some things up. So I've got ahead of the game if there's a day I don't really have time or can't do it because of work and stuff like that. But it's been a fun experience, and it's got a bunch of little victories in it. And the growth and the insights to my own self, as well as just things on a more general basis. And, it's like, one of the things too is like, God can't bless this if I'm not doing it, if there's nothing to bless. So, anyway, it's just a fun batch of stuff. And, my thoughts are, if it's helpful to anybody out there, if you're considering doing YouTube or considering starting anything and you're in your head on it, try to break it down to just some small start, some small plan to begin with that you can adjust later. Do your due diligence, do your studying on it, do whatever it is, but at some point, just take a big old deep breath, hold somebody's hand if you need to, and just start. And you can delete it if you want to. It's okay, but just start. And you can do it just for you. You can do it where you're just standing in front of a camera and talking and just delete it afterwards, whatever you want. It's yours, right? So choose how you want to do it. But it's a great opportunity for growth and for insight and for fun and community, and you just don't know. And if it's one of those things that things will reveal themselves and situations will occur that are just enjoyable. And, several years back, this is kind of a side note related to that, but several years back I was at the beach and going spearfishing, and I came out and had a fish or two, and this guy came up to me and goes, "I've seen you on YouTube." He says, I saw your shark video, and so we got to talking. We talked probably 10 or 15 minutes, and it was so cool to just, we're all just regular people, and sometimes we look at somebody who's been around and done that, produced things and all that stuff. So, oh, they're a creator, oh, they're a YouTuber, oh, they're successful, whatever. And we put them in a different sort of level. And, it felt empowering in a way, I guess, and just validating in that, oh, I'm not just speaking into a void. It's not just nameless NPCs, non-player characters out there that are occasionally liking things or commenting things. It's real life people, and sometimes you get to meet them. And even if you're introverted, I think that can be, YouTube is kind of a safe environment to do that. We can be talking to someone through a camera, pick that someone through the other side of the lens, and just talk to them, even if it's to yourself or something. And there's all sorts of methods to it, and to make things easier and help get you through the different phases of things. But I think it's worth it, even if you don't know what you want to talk about, even if you just don't have a clue. If nothing else, you're talking to yourself, or talk to a friend or a relative in your mind's eye through the lens, or maybe in your real life. You don't have to publish it publicly. You can just put it in private or unlisted and leave it there where nobody really sees it. But just the act of doing it, whether it's YouTube or something else, whatever it is, whatever you've been holding back on, put together a little plan and just start. Just start. And it's never, man, as many times as I go through this, I'm learning this lesson. It's never as hard as we think. As soon as we cross that threshold and we look back, we're like, wow, that was not the big deal I thought it was. And sometimes we can be held back for years on stuff. And then when we finally face it and finally take the steps, it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. What a funny thing. Anyway, hopefully this is helpful for you. It's been very helpful for me, and that's why I wanted to share it. So have a great day. Catch you next time.